Your re-entry into Halo was, I remember, almost like a break the internet kind of moment. Everybody saw you as an optic lifer. Was it always kind of understood internally that you'd be taking one of those 4 roster spots?
Me, Joey, and Tommy went out to eat at like a Thai spot. They literally asked me like who I wanted to replace. It was like just up to me if I wanted to replace Brad or Ola. I felt more comfortable teaming with Brad.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? And welcome to this week's episode of Tide the Leader, a podcast dedicated to exploring the past, present, and future of competitive Halo. Joining me each week is Eli the Ninja, and joining us this week is a very special guest, Formal. How's it going?
Going well, man. Just finished up some scrims, chilling. Got me in a good time, so excited to get into the questions.
Well, getting right into it. With every show, we like to start out with the origin stories. How did you get into gaming, and how did you come up with your gamer tag?
Into gaming, I would probably like attribute it to my brother. My brother was 5 years older than me, and he played Halo 2. So like anytime he wasn't on the Xbox, I would have to like beg him to use his. And I would go into his room at like fucking like 4 a.m. and like try to get in a few hours of like team snipers, like because he was asleep. That was like the only time I could play. I was like 8 years old. I used to 1v1 him. I used to 1v1 like my friends from school. Obviously, like I kind of knew I was like good because like I don't know, we'd always like argue. Me and my friends would get into fights and like it would just turn bad because like I would just be like slamming them like 1v1 mid chips and stuff. And but that's kind of where I started gaming, Halo 2. And then my gamer tag, uh, I went to a private school, and my dad used to hang up like my shirt that I have to wear to school like on my door. And one of my friends from high school had a gamer tag. It was like lowercase z space Fain, like Fain. And so I wanted to like copy him with like a lowercase z and then a word that started with like F. And I was looking around my room and I just saw like the shirt on the door, and I was like, okay, Formal, fuck it. So and Z Formal.
Your only chance to play was at 4 a.m. Was your brother not like? Did he not share the Xbox? Like, well, what the hell, big bro?
He gate kept the Xbox pretty hard. I would play on his tag too. I didn't have my own account, so like I'm sure he cared about his rank and stuff, and I would just play like team snipes and like probably cost a few like his ranks like that too much. So it was he also didn't like me in his room, like little brother stuff. Like just didn't want your like 8 year old little brother in the room with you. So that probably played a part too. But
yeah, I wonder what his opinion on it is now. He's like, maybe I should have let him play it more and like maybe learned from him at the time because I don't know, maybe you weren't good yet, but he probably thinks it's pretty cool nowadays.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's hella supportive of it now. Back then, I think it was just like the older brother, little brother dynamic. Kind of didn't want me in his room, but yeah, he's hella supportive now.
Love that. In an episode of HCS Unlocked, you were famously quoted as saying this game, referring to Halo 2, was a masterpiece. And you also said if you weren't a part of it, then you weren't a part of it. But if you were, then you know what I'm talking about. Can you expand on that quote? It seemingly resonated quite a bit with all of the Halo OGs when they heard you say that.
So basically, like Halo 2 just had like a godlike ranking system. Like from top to bottom, it was just like I think everybody that played Halo 2 like understands that everyone just cared about the rank like way more than they do about Onyx or Champion even. Like back then, you wanted to get to like level 40, like level 35 even to see like the new colors and stuff. Because like once you saw the new colors, like yeah, once you saw those, like you were either like godlike or a hacker. But
right.
those game like those ranks were like insanely cool. Like you just wanted to have it so bad, and I think that was one of the big reasons why Halo 2 was so popular. The ranks was so godlike. Like you would lose a game, you'd lose your rank, and you'd care. Like you would go fit. Like I had so many times I would like remove my whole friends list, be like fuck all of you, like just rage like as a little kid, and just like get rid of my whole list just because I lost my 30. So I don't know. Halo 2 was it was a masterpiece, bro. It was so good.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, that's where Mikowski and I met playing free for alls damn near 100 years ago at this point, and we lovingly talk about it all the time. So definitely relate to that.
Looking back at your career, I see that your first Halo tournament, I assume this was your first competitive gaming tournament, was Anaheim 2009, where you teamed with Art of War, Frogon, Shire, which is crazy. I teamed with Shire at one point. Love that guy, Kyle. Shout out. What do you remember most about the early days of your gaming career? You didn't necessarily jump right into the success you had today. You were fighting to get top 32, sometimes even placing outside of that.
My first event was MLG Anaheim 2009, and yeah, I don't know, like it kind of took a lot to convince my parents to let me go to events in the first place. Because I mean, back then I'm like a 13-year-old asked my parents to let me travel across the country to play video games. Like they probably thought that was hella sketchy. Probably thought I like got convinced by like an older guy to like come to his house or something, you know. So they were not too fond of that, especially because like I didn't get the best grades in high school. So like they were always like saying school first, you know, like a good parent would. So it took a lot for me to actually go to my first event. And luckily there was one in Anaheim, which was like 20 minutes away, which helped a lot. Um, just like a short drive away, and it didn't have to like fly or anything. So um, they were much more comfortable with that than me going to like, you know, Meadowlands or Toronto or, you know, any of those events. Um, so if there wasn't an Anaheim, though, I don't know what would happen to my career. It would have been a whole different story because I was like known as a kid that wouldn't go to events. Like I would say I would and I wouldn't. That was true. I would literally tell people that I want, like I had points from like fucking like Dallas '06 and shit. It's like lying. Um, like no, dude, I trust. I had like FFA. It got cut in half though, yeah, but like I have points. And like get on like random people's teams and stuff just to get dropped once the event comes around. I just have to make them an excuse, like just because like I wanted to just be involved in some way. Like I guess like back then, like as a kid, you don't realize how dumb you're being, but fucking I don't know. It was really lucky there was an Anaheim event for sure.
Back then, it was very clear that you were going to be involved in any way possible. I specifically remember, I mean, at the time, this was probably towards the end of my career, like toward the beginning of Halo Reach. At the time, I was like starting to get more into poker and play that instead. But I do remember you like messaging me, and I feel like you were just messaging any pro or anybody that was known at the time. And you were like, yo, 1v1 me, 1v1 me. Like you were challenging me to a 1v1. And I agreed to it. I remember I actually beat you at the time.
This sounds super cap.
No, dude, I remember it. You were like 13, I think it was on Sanctuary. You said, let's do Sanctuary 1v1. We played it, and that's what I remember. Were you challenging like all the pros to 1v1s? Was that part of like your way to enter into the scene and like get people to pay attention to what you were doing?
Oh yeah, I remember in Halo 3, I'm like 13 or 14 years old, and I matched Roy. And Roy's like a fucking unicorn at this point. He's like a fucking Charizard. Like you don't ever see like Roy like in the playlist. He also had like a weird tag, like it was like TNB space Roy with a 0. There was a fake Roy that had the O. So like his tag just looked hella weird and like fake and stuff. But so I matched Roy. I like check his list because that was a way to like validate anyone back then. You check their list and stuff. Check his list. He has all these pros. I message him 1v1. He accepts. I play him. I beat him. He adds me, and like he was the first pro I ever had on my list, and he was like so cool about it. Like he wasn't pissed that he lost 1v1. He just added me and said I'm good, and like we can play MM sometimes. And I was like, okay, fucking bet. I'm like 13, so doped up, like carrying this. And so yeah, I mean, I would message pros randomly. It was either I would message them for a 1v1 or I would just like teabag them in playlist.
Yeah, you talked a lot of trash back then. I mean, you've obviously grown up, and that was so long ago. But I think I remember adding you to my list, and you would like randomly message me like, "Yo, let's play" or whatever. I think you did the same to Gunshot because Gunshot and I were teaming at the time. So
And you gotta get noticed somehow. Like
yeah, you're not afraid to message people.
you kind of have to.
Do you think that maybe up and coming players that are trying to break into the scene maybe need to try harder to play like the political like networking game? Because that's how I feel. I feel like a lot of the up and coming players that talk about not getting a chance or whatever, they're like not trying hard enough to network and like socialize with better players.
Yeah, I mean, it's called like the way I call it. Like when I talk to people about it, it's just called the game within the game that you have to play, or else you're just gonna get left in the dust. Like if you're not actively putting your name out there in positive lights and like getting yourself into lobbies, getting yourself, you know, making these pros see you basically, whether that be like MM, and you're just smashing them over and over again. Because like there's like certain MM kids like I'll play and like if you play them enough, you'll eventually think they're pretty good, you know. And then if you play them in the HCS tournament, they're not that good. But there's some players that are still pretty good, you know. And if they do good in the tournaments, then they're like really noticed. And if they go far in the tournaments, everybody will notice them. So I mean, I think it's definitely important to network yourself however you can.
Yeah, I think we all did some nefarious, maybe dishonest things to get into those lobbies. I think all three of us probably have some wild stories as it relates to that. But moving along the timeline for, well, in Halo Reach, you started to make a name for yourself, placing 5th at MLG Dallas with Blaze, Break, and Ryan Noob. How were you able to make such a big leap from fighting to make it out of open to contending for top 3?
So I basically just got like a golden ticket chance. They were like Break was like a top 6 pro. Like he had like a curse, like a 5th place curse or something like that. So he was always getting top 6. And then like Blaze and Ryan Noob were like kind of like up and comers from the combines, and they were like winning the combines. So they were like kind of like up and coming like pros. and I was just like, I don't really know who contacted who. But at some point, I mean, like I said, I networked myself with them. They decided to take a risk on me. At this point, I was still known as a kid that wouldn't show up to events, and somehow I convinced my parents to fly to Dallas with me, and then they would see what the events are like and maybe give them, a little more, um, like put them at ease about the events. And they came with me. They saw me play. We played through open bracket, and then we made it out of open bracket, and we got fifth place, which back then was pretty hard to do. So it was like, I don't know, that was kind of like lucky that they even gave me a chance in the first place. But yeah, we used the chance they gave me, and we did well. So
One of your first teammates was Ryan Noob. Now it feels like some of the spiciest trash talk is directed at Ryan Noob. That famous moment on the main stage where it's like, "Why are you bagging me, dude? You're shit." And how do you think trash talking has evolved from then to now?
I mean, like, there's not really any like bad blood with me and Ryan. Like, it was just kind of the heat of the moment, like sick of him like shooting our bodies when like we just beat him every time. Like, it just like, I don't know, made me more cringe than like mad, So I had to say something. Back in the day, when you play someone on main stage, everyone's wearing Astros, no soundproof, nothing. Like, you could hear a lot. You could hear all the shit talk that was being said. So anything that was like being thrown across the main stage, you'd hear it. Nowadays, that's not really the case.
Facts. A lot has changed. Moving along the timeline from 2011 to 2012, you and Lethal dropped one of the greatest montages of all time, your dualtage, The Avengers, which I think we famously went head to head in that in the Halo Council montage contest, if I remember correctly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a Halo Council montage. I'm getting capped too, Eli.
No, I think I do remember that.
I remember this specifically because at that event, Dallas 2011, you were I think you were smoking a cig and you walked over to me and you're like, "Yo, Mikowski, dude, fucking killer montage." Because at the time I was always a montage kid. I was never really like a respected MLG pro, but you came up and gave me a dap for. You're like, "Dude, congrats on beating me in Lethal. Like, you killed it with that montage."
Okay, that sounds cap. Let's let that rock. Sure, that was a sick Taj. That was a sick Taj.
What were your memories of the montage scene, and how do you think it's evolved today?
The montages back then were sick. There was a lot of montages. Like, that was kind of like everyone's like background goal throughout the year was to get a bunch of clips, and you make it into a montage at the end of the year, and then you would try to get some, I don't know, a lot of clips against pros. The more clips you got against pros, the more tipped you'd get. It was all about just getting tipped. It was like, and it was good for the scene. Part a lot of content. I mean, like, those people like Campy who like were strictly montage kids, and they ended up like his shit was good, like really good, like vibey as fuck. There was a lot of good clips. Like, he got his name out there with montages, And I think he tried competing at one point, but I don't know how good he did.
I actually teamed with Campy for his first tournament. I told him, I was like, "Dude, you're a montage kid. I promise you, montage kids can do well in tournaments. Come to this event." So his first event was in 2011 at a Reach event too. I think we got top 32. But at that, it was that free for all event where he played against Straight Sick and had that famous moment on the main stage. That was his first tournament. So
like the tie, or what was it?
I think it was the tie, right?
yeah, we're with the triple kill. Yep. So yeah, Campy was a really good friend of mine at the time, and yeah, convinced him to try to go pro because we had some success doing that. Actually, with Eli the Ninja, who carried me to pro status in 2009. So a couple years later, I told Campy, I was like, "Let's do the same thing. If I can do it, you can too." So that's sort of how Campy got into the MLG scene. But yeah, Campy's montages, even his Halo 5 stuff, which I'm not as fond of, I can still go back and watch and just be like, "Damn, bro, Campy is nuts."
Yeah, his montages were sick for sure. I just don't think like montages are like really a thing anymore. Like, they just don't seem like they're being pumped out nearly as much. I don't know why. Maybe they're just like less hype nowadays, and people just don't care.
To me, I think it's the people's attention spans. Like, I think that nowadays with like TikTok culture and like Vine and like, also it's just too easy to like share a clip on Twitter, right? Like, you hit a sick clip, you just pop it on Twitter, and then you get your likes and retweets, and you forget about it, and then you're like, "Oh, I don't want to use that in a montage because people already seen that." Like, I don't know. I feel like that's why maybe more pros don't do it, because they just share clips as soon as they get them for the cloud or whatever it is. But it's definitely a lost art, in my opinion. This actually was funny to me because I totally forgot about this until we were like prepping for questions and stuff. I'm looking through your tournament results, and I see in the Halo 4 era, you were on Team Ambush, which was like you guys were probably the winningest team in Halo 4 from what I could tell. You guys won a majority of the AGL events.
Oh, yeah.
Probably the best team ever in Halo 4.
Whatever that means.
Right. It's a very, very different game for sure. Maybe less people playing it, but regardless, something to be proud of, I think. But yeah, it's just cool to me because I was actually the guy I came up with Ambush when I teamed with Snipe Down at his first event in 2008. And then later, Ola and Heinz end up on the roster that same year, and they upset Straight Rippa and got like top 4, which
Yeah, I
was pretty
remember that.
monumental at the time. So I don't know. It's pretty cool to kind of have a little bit of a tie with you with the Ambush team. And what do you think made that team so dominant at the time? Because, like I said, you guys won a majority of the tournaments in that era.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there wasn't much comp, to be honest. Like, we had like a really good team, as opposed to other teams. Like, we kind of had like a god squad at that time. We were really fucking good, and also there was no D scope, and you got people like me and Snipe Down just shooting snipes. Like, there was double snipe maps. Like, it was just,
Oh,
it was
geez.
kind of just made for us. So, yeah, there was a lot of slaughters that year. But yeah, it just sucks it wasn't taken as serious, but it is what it is.
I give you tips for sticking through with Halo all the way through Halo 4 and Halo 2 Anniversary, which I think for a lot of the OG Halo fans, it was pretty tough to do.
I didn't stick through MCC. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, not. Well, you competed in one Halo 2 Anniversary tournament, or
Yeah, but I was already in COD at that point.
okay. And whoa, that's actually really interesting that you would jump into Call of Duty. It seems like that's something you'd go full frontal into. Was there like that love for Halo that kept you competing in something like Halo 2 Anniversary? Because, like you said, I mean, those were dark times.
It was literally just it was like I think the first event of that game, and I got a captain spot randomly. And I like messaged like at the time like I think it was like me, Lethal, APG, and Maniac, and we were just like best friends. Like didn't really give a fuck about winning the tournament. Like if it happens, it happens. But like we don't really care. We were just kind of going just hang out, and somehow we won the event. So it was awesome. Like, and yeah, I was already competing in COD at that point, but it was like in the middle of like our off season kind of from Ghost to AW, so I had like a little bit of a break, so I could do it.
That makes sense. Now, talk us through the motivation behind your decision to switch from Halo. I mean, was it as simple as the fact that Halo 4, Halo 2 Anniversary, the comp scene wasn't really like you said there was no comp. I think you were just quoted as so. Was that part of that thought process and decision? But just talk us through switching over to Call of Duty because I remember that being a massive change.
Yeah, I went to MLG Anaheim 2013, 2012, one of those two, and saw COD Black Ops 2, and was watching the players like on main stage and stuff. I think me and APG just went just to like because I was like a local and APG was going, and we just went hung out like just kind of fucked around and partied the whole weekend. But like when I was watching the COD event, like or I was watching the game and I was just thinking like this doesn't look like that hard. Like I could probably play this game. So as soon as I got back, like Halo was kind of dying also, which obviously was like the main pusher. Like there was nothing really to play for. There was no events. The AGL guy just like took all the money and left.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of chalked his own league, so there was nothing really else to play for. So picked up Call of Duty. Call of Duty Ghosts coming out. It was kind of like perfectly timed. Took a chance and worked out.
I'm a little curious about that because, I mean, you've heard the recent stuff about G1 and some issues there. I'm curious because somebody was like, it's like AGL Brad all over again, but like I wasn't in Halo at the time, so I'm assuming AGL Brad was the guy that like owned the whole league. Did you guys actually get prize money from these tournaments that you played, or no?
Yeah, there was a few tournaments where we actually got paid, but like towards the as he like went out, what he did was like he said there was going to be an event, had everybody buy team passes, and then just took all that money and just kind of left.
What?
No,
Oh
yeah,
my
didn't have an
God.
event, just took all the team pass money and left. So
Jeez, and that nobody ever did anything about it, I guess.
I guess not. I mean, like I showed up in my chat years later and gave me 5 gifted, like it was supposed to like make up for it, but
5 gifted for like how much money in prize money?
yeah, I don't know. It was just a shit show, bro. Like Halo 4 was just dead.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
In your first COD tournament, you placed I want to say top 16. Correct me if I'm wrong. So
No.
similar. Okay, what was
It was,
what
it was
was
a
your
top 24.
Oh wow.
Top 24. Yeah.
Okay, so similar to Halo, it wasn't like you were just blowing the doors off of the comp scene when you walked in through. Talk us through the process of switching from Halo to Call of Duty, and then 3 years later, ultimately winning the World Championship alongside Karma, Scump, and Crimsix.
Okay. Well, like when we first switched, it was me, Enable, Snakebite, and Ace. We like all switched together. Because like I said, Halo was dead, and we all kind of just wanted to try it. So I went with like an all Halo team. We made it through AM bracket. We actually we beat the #1 team in Open, which back then is like a big deal. And then we went to pool play and stuff, and kind of played against pro teams and stuff. We lost to them, but like I mean, it was whatever. It was like our first event. But then after that event, I kind of knew like our ceiling from as being like an all Halo team wasn't going to be that high, and I knew I would just have to like start making moves with COD teams and actually learn how to play COD because it's a much different game than Halo. So I hopped onto to Fear, which was like Moho, Dito, and Complex, and they were like an all COD team, obviously, and they taught me how to play a little bit. And then from there, we got like I think top 20 again at the event, and then I got kind of lucky again. I got picked up by like TK, which was like second best team in the game. I don't really know why they picked me up. Like they had much better options and much better sure things. Like they needed like a min AR, and I just like wasn't even like a min AR really. I was just like I'll run whatever. Um, so they gave me a shot, and then I just kept team hopping and team hopping and team hopping throughout the year. And people were calling me a sketch and shit, but like I mean, dude, you just have to do what you have to do in this scene. Like you can only be loyal for so long. Like if you want to make moves, you want to get to that top like level, you have to like do what's best for yourself. And like anyone that tells you different is just an idiot. So um, like I left a team every single event that year and played that team that I left the next event every single time and beat them every single time, and then went on to place better and better and better. And by the end of the year, I was on Optic. So it was just like I don't know, it was a really fast come up in terms of like team hopping. I played for like FaZe and Envy and EK all in 1 year, which was like the top orgs of like the scene. But like you just have to do it at the end of the day. End up on Optic and end up winning events by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we had Renegade on the podcast a week ago, and he said almost word for word the exact same thing. So you got to do what it takes to get to the top.
Yeah, you have to. You have to look out for yourself because like no one else is going to. So you just got to do what's best for yourself.
You can only count on yourself for anything in life, really, and especially in a competitive atmosphere. So, yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Talk to us about that Infinite Warfare squad. I mean, Formal, Karma, Scump, Crimsix. I think a lot of people would put that at the top of their favorite FPS teams of all time. What memory sticks out to you the most with that team?
I mean, like obviously winning champs is up there. It's number one.
First ring, doing what he can here to keep Envy players coming off a spawn. No ground given now as Karma finds another two-piece. Here's the overdrive. Popped. Is he just trying to back him up? Making all the plays is Crimsix. The curse has been broken. The dynasty.
Yeah, I mean that team was just really fun to watch, probably for like fans and stuff. It was like a god squad at the time. So
Yeah. And is that what helped you stay together? Because like you said, it's not uncommon to team hop after second place, right? If you don't get first, you're last. Kind of Ricky Bobby kind of mindset. What was it about the boys? Was it just that camaraderie? You guys seem to have a friendship almost in and out of the game. Is that what was able to keep you guys together for 3 years after really disappointing world championship placements for 2 years in a row?
I mean, like I think the thing that kept us together was that we were winning all the other events, right? Like we were winning so many other events that like losing the worlds was like it was like whatever kind of just because we had won like 15 other events. So like we knew we could win and we knew we were still the best team in the game. Like we knew when we lost champs twice, like it was just on us. Like we just had, you know, a couple bad weekends. It happens, but stuck through it. We battled like all the fucking critics, naysayers and stuff and did it our way. Fun. So it was nice.
So obviously you were busy with COD for most of it, but Halo 5 was a springboard game for many of today's top players, but obviously you didn't play it at all.
I did play it. I did play it a little bit.
Oh, you did play it.
Whenever AW ended in 2014, right before Halo 5 came out, right before Black Ops 3 came out, there was a little bit of break between AW and Black Ops 3, and Halo 5 just popped. But, like I was playing it, I got Champ 1, like was just grinding the fuck out of it with like some COD pros and like some Halo pros. Like I would play with random people, and so I did play it a little bit, but didn't go to any events or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were playing it, but not like grinding. Do you feel like? Well, I guess to me, like a lot of the players that are good at Halo Infinite were good at Halo 5 because there is a bit of movement mechanics that are involved. Now we've got the DMR, which is pretty similar to, it's basically a reskinned Halo 5 pistol. Do you feel like you had to catch up at all for Infinite? Because it kind of felt like you just came out the gate like already frying like the moment you started playing Infinite. Did it feel like you had to warm back up, or maybe did that Halo 5 experience make it a lot easier to transition back to Halo?
I mean, like it was definitely like a completely different game than what I was used to. I'd been playing COD for years at that point, and like COD's, like I said, a very different game. Like you're playing off a mini map the whole time, and Halo there's no radar, so that's like a big thing. Like right stick aiming in COD's very, very like I guess like dominant, and left sticking is not really like a thing. And like in this game, I left stick a lot. just in terms of like straight aiming. So definitely an adjustment, but I mean, after a few months, like it felt normal, felt good. I was grinding the fuck out of it, so got pretty good pretty fast for sure.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was watching a lot of your early streams. Like, damn, this guy's already one of the best, and hasn't even been playing Halo. Because I didn't know you played any Halo 5, but I guess it maybe helped a little bit.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure.
You once referenced Call of Duty coaches as "quote unquote" scrim schedulers. Do you feel the same about Halo coaches? And what has Lunchbox meant to you and your team's success?
No, it's completely different in Halo because your coach is in game with you while you're playing. In COD, they're not on stage with you at all. They used to be, but they're not anymore. So
Oh wow,
COD
okay.
coaches pretty much do like the way I think about it is like COD coaches just do all the stuff that you don't want to do. They do all the research on the other team. They see the breakoffs. They see their strats. They relay that to you, and then kind of just tell your team, and then hopefully they play off of it, right? Like a player could go out and do that themselves, but they just don't want to. Like that's pretty much
Right.
it. Like some players do, obviously, but they just do all the stuff that players don't want to do. Whereas Jason's just like in game with us. Like it's like the little things Jason does, like tells us to slow down with comms, like it's getting a little too hectic, like in the moment. That's like really big to have. Obviously, he's on top of power ups and stuff like that, but it's all the extra stuff because Jason's also like a champion as well, so he knows what it takes to win. Like the way he won too, like he wasn't like a superstar, he was like the gritty, like do whatever it takes to win guy. So that's like really good to have in your ear the whole time.
Makes sense. I would consider him probably the best Halo coach right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like just listening to you guys when they do the listen ins, like I feel like everything that he says adds value. There's no like wasted words, like even predicting spawns. Like at this point, everybody knows how to predict spawns. It's not that hard, but just to have like somebody else, I guess, like confirm it to you that can see like everything from an overhead perspective. He's so good at that. So,
Oh yeah, he's super helpful.
Your re-entry into Halo was, I remember, almost like a break the internet kind of moment. By 2021, everybody saw you as an Optic lifer. You actually subbed in though for Royal 2 at the Raleigh kickoff event for Sentinels. Not the most ideal circumstances. I'll let you speak to that in a bit, but you guys made the most out of it, placing fourth place. You actually beat Optic at that event with a 20-plus kill game 5. Did you know at the time you wanted to join that roster afterwards? And was it always kind of understood internally that you'd be taking one of those 4 roster spots?
Yeah, I mean, like funny enough, like remember one time me and Brad APG were at Maniac's house, like on his balcony, just like bullshitting, smoking or something. I don't know. We're just hanging out, and I remember telling Brad like jokingly, like, I can't wait to be teaming in a few months. Like it was right when I started playing Halo Infinite, it, like just dropped, and like I told him that, he just smiled, like how Brad is, and then like months later we're teaming. Like I mean, I obviously was kind of joking, but I was kind of serious. Like there wasn't really going to be any other team I was going to play for like full time. Like I played for SSG a little bit, and that's the team that I left to go play with Sentinels once Royal 2 couldn't go, because like I've always been friends with Sentinels guys at the time, like Frosty, Snakebite, Lethal. So it was like when they asked me, I was just like, yeah, bro, let's just do that. Like at the event, we obviously placed really well. We got fourth place or something, and with the amateur bracket, like it was really good, like all things considered. And beating Optic was probably like a really good thing in hindsight, like for like the timeline to actually happen. Like beating them, especially the way that we did, like dropping 20 game 5, like they're probably thinking like I'm actually pretty good at the game, and not just like fucking around, And once I kept playing, like they knew I was gonna take it serious. It made it probably like an easy choice for them to consider me after they got second Anaheim. Yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, most people I remember at the time surmised that it was either going to be Ola or APG that would come off the roster, but it sounds like you guys probably maybe even knew it was Ola before then. What was that like, knowing that you'd be filling in for 1 or 2 legends, or is that what was the case there?
Me, Joey, and Tommy went out to eat at like a Thai spot, and they literally asked me like who I wanted to replace. It was like just up to me if I wanted to replace Brad or Ola, and I just chose to replace Ola because I've won with Brad before. I've won with Ola before too, but like I don't know. I just kind of like thought that a team with Brad was going to be better. And obviously that's true at the end of it, right? Like I mean, I guess we could have won with Ola too. I don't know, but yeah, they asked me, and then I just chose to take Brad's or Ola's spot. Keep Brad. Yeah.
Was
Wow.
that difficult, or I mean, it sounds like it was like you said. I mean, we were watching some old videos. You teamed with APG like back in the early 2000s, so you guys just had more history, more chemistry. What was the deciding factor ultimately in that?
Yeah, I mean, the deciding factor was just knowing that we were going to be better with Brad. That was pretty much it. Like the bottom line. I felt more comfortable teaming with Brad, so we just went with him.
Backtracking just a little bit here to your switch off of Call of Duty. I remember it was like people were really sad at the time because they thought you were retiring entirely from gaming when you left the Call of Duty scene. Talk us through your mentality and your mindset leaving Call of Duty and coming back to your firstborn, if you will, your baby in Halo.
I mean, it was just like perfect timing, right? Like Optic and Envy merged, and they told me like I wasn't going to be on the COD roster anymore. And I probably, if I really wanted to, I probably could have fought for my spot and like stayed on the roster, but I just didn't care. Like I just like I remember they told me I was in the middle of a Valorant game, turned around, heard what they said, and then put my headphone back on. I kept playing. Like I just didn't care. I was like, whatever, it's fine. And then, but like I just didn't want to fight for COD anymore. I was just kind of like over it. Passion for it was killed. Like the years and years of online COD and the games that were coming out, which weren't like fun at all. I actually had like a break from it. And then Halo Infinite was coming out at the time, and I mean, like I wasn't like seriously trying to compete in it at first, but then like obviously as time went on, I realized I could. Um, but I had no intention of like playing it full time until I realized how good I was at it, and like realizing I could win events, and then playing it all the time also reignited my passion for it. So it definitely really good timing there.
So after joining the squad, you experienced immediate success, placing third in your first tournament. And then at Orlando, you won that tournament, starting a string of wins that had many in the community believing you'd form a dynasty after winning the Halo World Championship and also the kickoff event of Season 2. What do you think stopped that dynasty from continuing its success, at least at the very top?
Okay, well, I don't think it was a dynasty. I think we got a couple wins. That was great, but a dynasty is like too loosely thrown around these days. I think like really hard to become a dynasty. Like you got to win a fuck ton.
What would you place that number at? 5, 6 events in a row?
I mean, like I would say like fucking 10, like 10 events and like a couple worlds. Like then you could be considered like a dynasty. I would say. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately like other teams got better, and we didn't get like so much better than them that we could like win worlds again like so easily. Like we probably could have won worlds. Looking back at it, but I mean the cards didn't fall into place, so we felt like we needed to make a change. And I mean, unfortunately, Brad was just the person we had to like place.
Yeah, I remember casting the grand finals on LVT with Eli in Season 2 when you guys had beat FaZe previously. I think even in the winners final to get to grand finals with the winners token in your back pocket. You guys went up 2-0 before FaZe famously won 8 in a row. What happened in that? And talk us through that moment where you guys left the venue to take a breather, talk through strategy. What occurred during that time, and how do you think FaZe were able to ultimately just secure that Halo World Championship?
Man, it was just momentum at that point. Like we just blew the 2-0. Like when we're up 2-0, you just can't let that slip away. Like you just got to keep the pressure on them and the gas going. I think we just kind of let off a little bit and like thought it was going to be easier than it was going to be. And like, I mean, it's just like it is what it is. Like you live and you learn. It's just a really shitty like way to go out, especially with how good things were going. Like we reverse swept SSG in the winners finals, which was like really fucking hard to do. And when you do that, like it seems like you're going to win the tournament. You go up 2-0 in the final, and like you walk into the bathroom and you think it's like fucking all sunshine and stuff, but it's like be like up 2-0 in a grand final. The next thing you know, you're down. You just lose the tournament, you're out. Like, yeah, it's just like really unlucky. All there is to it.
Now in Season 3, you guys dropped APG, now have Dead Zone on the roster. How does he fit into the squad, and what has the learning experience been like working him into a group of players that have been already playing together for a long time?
I mean, it's really easy to fit into our team, I think, especially for someone like Zane. The way he thinks about Halo is very similar to ours, so it was a good fit. We just need like a little bit of time to like have him get used to the way that we play. But yeah, ever since then, he's been lights out.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, I've always thought that your squad was one of the more like structured and like methodical. You can just hear it in the way you guys communicate. It's so like, I guess, clear and concise. You guys are also good at like changing decisions on the fly. And he's felt to me like the perfect player to like slot into that. Like I feel like he's in his comfort zone within like a system that makes sense versus like maybe a team like SSG that's kind of like, I guess, goes with the flow throughout plays. Like they have some structure, but Optic has more structure. Would you agree with that assessment, or am I faded for saying that?
No, it's not that faded. I think SSG is like, I mean, they obviously have structure. Like they're a smart team. They just do a lot of like individual fast shit where we like try to be a little more teamwork oriented. Like obviously we do fast shit too, but like teams like FaZe and SSG, they just do a little more individual stuff, which we try to stay away from. But like obviously there's times you have to. But I don't think we said it was faded. I think it's a decent assessment.
You're a multi FPS champion. You're known as a multi FPS gamer. I think it's so hilarious when we're doing a LVT broadcast. And if you guys ever have like a bad tournament, someone will be like, "Man, Formal should stop playing so much Apex Legends." What's the thought process behind being a multi FPS gamer? Some people like to stick to a main game and only get into their avatar mode in that one game. Talk me through your thought process of playing so many different games. Like I said, you might be seeing on Apex Legends a week before a Halo major.
We're all just chasing dope, right? So like when you get bored of Halo for a little bit, which is easy, especially with the state of the game, you want to play something else in your free time. So like sometimes I'll play something else. I got sucked into WoW for a little bit. That kind of like fucked everything up because that game's like crack.
Yeah, that's a bad
you
one.
can't
That-
casually
that
play
game-
WoW.
No, you really can't. So that was kind of where we were doing bad last year on like the Fort Worth, or not Fort Worth, but the Dallas events, like the whatever that was, DreamHack and whatever. Like that was in a WoW sim. That was tragic, but I mean, like, yeah, it's just like sometimes you just get bored of the game, and like you don't always have to be on the fucking game to be good at it. Like, there's times where you just want to take a break and get your mind off of it and play something else. That's what I do. Still a gamer, so I'm not just gonna like stop gaming altogether. I'll just play something else.
100%.
I wanted to add to that just because you're talking about the state of the game. We just talked to Bound, we've talked to Renegade, a little bit about the current meta and how things are changing a bit. One of the hot topics right now is the bandits' fire rate and the time to kill. What's your stance on that, and what are some changes you would make to current HCS settings to help and improve it?
Take off OS on Aquarius. That's just unbelievably brain dead. It was fine with camo. I put OS back on Livefire as well, but I mean, like in terms of the gun, I don't really know what I would do to make it balanced because like you could say one thing, but you don't really know until you play it. You know, like how it's gonna actually play and feel. So there's a lot of like I don't know the word like pivability, like where you're just able to get out of situations that you probably shouldn't just because you can win a piv that you wouldn't be able to win with the VR, that's good. I think that's a good thing. I'd rather have this than like the cross mapping that we were doing with the VR. I thought that was fucking hella boring and stale and probably wasn't very fun to watch. So I mean, I'm okay with this. I just think like all the cheesy guns need to be taken out.
I think that's fair. That's been a common trait across many of the pros that we've spoken with, and it brings up this idea of, man, if we're able to collaborate and get everybody's thought process together in something almost like a pro players association, do you think that is something that would benefit the Halo scene? And I remember Eli going back to like when we were competing, Walshy tried to create something like that, if I recall correctly, way back. This is 10, 20 years ago.
He didn't just try, he did.
He did. That's right.
Or like a PPA or something.
Like a PPA.
Yeah.
There was a secret forum in the MLG forums that you'd only had access to if you're a professional Halo player, and there was specific areas where Clap, Sepso, Sundance, all those guys would take feedback from pros, and they would directly use that feedback to build like MLG V8, right? I think it was, Eli. Oh my god.
In Halo 3,
It was the greatest version of the game because it was literally decided on mutually by all the pros. Do you think something like that could even benefit modern day Halo?
I mean, yeah. I mean, like there kind of already is one of those. It's just like not really a PPA. It's like players kind of agreeing to like when we stop using the Mangler or drop weapon. Like that's what that is. It's like it's the players coming together and agreeing that it's too cheesy. Probably shouldn't do this. No one likes it, and kind of just decide there. It's like GAs, right? Like
Right.
COD does it a lot. Just deciding as a collective, like this is not good for our game. It's not good for the scene. Let's just stop using this stuff. And eventually, like there'll be like pulling teeth sometimes with certain players, but most of the time, like everyone agrees and like the game changes for the better, which is what we did. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like the players, because HCS won't make the change, like you guys just take it into your hands and make the change anyways. But back in the day, it was like the MLG settings were made hand in hand with MLG and the pro players. Like I remember being on the team that tested the game types, and then that's when we tuned up the walking speed to 110% instead of just 100% in Halo 3, and even down to where to place the overshield on the pit, and then we switch it to a custom power up because it was like more customizable and we could control it a little bit more. And it feels like we've got all the tools in Forge to like kind of balance the maps however we see fit. Like they took Solitude Strongholds out because it's too snowbally, but you kind of feel like maybe they just put something in the blue spawn and maybe the map functions a bit better. Like, I don't know. I think that there probably should be, I guess, more work done between HCS and pro players, and maybe significantly more testing, like where pro players actually have access to what they're testing instead of just like the pro committee within HCS. Maybe that's asking too much. I don't know, but
I mean, it shouldn't be like it's like
yeah.
There should always be like an open line of communication between the developers and the players and the HCS and the players, just to like have a betterment for like just a better version of the game that they're wanting people to watch, you know. And when there isn't, there's going to be a lot of animosity that builds up between the players. There's going to be a lot of like resentment from the people that are making the game, thinking that we just think the game's shit, and they're probably thinking like, why the fuck do you guys even play this shit if you're just gonna bitch the whole time? Like, there's a lot of like bad things that come from just not having an open line of communication. And it's not just in this game. Like, it was the same way in COD with certain developers. Like, you just wouldn't get a response, and they would just kind of do whatever the fuck they wanted. And I can see why Halo players like feel that way too. It's just like there's just not really like a good way to like get your voice out there. It's not really like a guy that you go to and you tell them certain things, and that actually gets heard and doesn't get like swept under the rug. And especially when all that the players want is just the best version of the game to come out. So, like I said, there's just a lot of animosity I think that's built up over time, and now we're kind of seeing that with like the tweets and like all the talks and like players rushing the game, blah blah blah. I think it's bad for the game that's like a thing. I think that it'd be way better if it was just like everyone loved the game and we all made changes to help it, and there was like weekly updates and stuff like that. But that's just like it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, historically, like you said, Matt, every single Call of Duty's had a GA, at least from what I can recall. Halo, though, never had GAs all the way through the classics. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eli or Matt. But in Halo Infinite, we did start to have GAs with things like the Mangler, things like Drop Weapon. But from what I recall, that was more like a season 1 thing. We haven't really had any active GAs since then. I'm seeing so much conversation, especially around the Heat Wave and the shotgun. Is that something that we could maybe see? Are there any GAs brewing right now and amongst the pros for season 3 as we progress through the season?
And yeah, I think that's the one. It's just like everybody I think is kind of wanting shotguns out of the game. Not really much skill there. It's just like it's like a power weapon, but it's like not really like a skillful power weapon, like a sniper and stuff. Like in my opinion, I would just rather have fucking snipers and DMRs. Like I don't give a fuck. Like I would rather have that and have everything be skillful. When you die to like a shotgun and fucking purple street on street. It's fine to have that in the game, obviously. Like shotguns are cool and people like shotguns, but competitively speaking, it's just not really that competitive. So, like, man, definitely want out of the game.
There's like some kind of aim assist coding or something, man, with the shotgun, the Bulldog specifically. Because, dude, if someone falls into the circle, that giant reticle of the shotgun, dude, it sticks. Like I think you'd have to try harder to miss that shot than to hit that shot. And I think that's where some of the frustrations coming into play, especially as it relates to skill expression, right? I think movement and gunplay, skill expression, all are an important factor. Not only we're talking about pro gameplay, but I think even for casuals who want to get on and have just as much fun as the pros do. So
yeah, I mean, like it's just like everyone's searching for dopamine, right? Like I don't feel like the shotgun gives dopamine when you kill someone with it. Like you just feel like just like I got him. Like you call it, like you're never like happy about it. Like
he's dead.
like you said, if HCS isn't to strictly take this out of the game through the game itself, what other GAs in addition to the shotgun and Heatwave being pulled out of pro play would you like to see? And could we anticipate this by London in about less than a month from now?
I mean, I don't know specifically what I would want out, but I think that there have been a lot of talks amongst the pros recently about certain things about the game that could definitely be like enforced by London. It takes a lot for everyone to actually come together and agree on it. So there's obviously a lot of people saying like this should be out and people will co-sign it, but like nothing ever really gets done until it happens. So we'll just have to see if that's like actually going to happen. We don't really know until then.
I wish that 343 or HCS or whoever's involved with ranked would understand that like the competitive settings and the ranked settings don't have to be 1-to-1. Like it's okay to have different stuff in the playlist. Like you can have more maps in ranked, you can have different weapons. But then in the tournament, like it's just all the no bullshit. Like we used to just play rifles. Like it was rifles on map for some of the maps in Halo 2. And it's just like you got BRs, carbines, and snipers, and that's it. But then if you play ranked, it's a little bit different. So I don't know. That's just my take on it. And I think could solve, a lot of the problems if they, started listening to some of these pro conversations.
I mean, it all goes back to being tipped, right? Like everyone wants to be tipped, and like you don't get tipped for a shotgun fucking kill. Like you get tipped for the no scopes and snipes and like the 5 shots and like stuff like that. So like when there's a gun in the game that just doesn't really give you much tipping, like I know it sounds kind of faded to say it that way, but it's like when you really think about it, it's really what it's about. And like you don't want to die to it because you just like think it's cheese. Like it's just, just cheese.
Yeah, I mean that feedback loop, like I said, whether you're a number 1 in HCS or a millionth, I don't know, the worst ranked player in Halo, everybody's looking to enjoy the game and have that positive feedback loop. So Matt, as we close out the long form questions, we're gonna have some quick cues here towards the end to wrap things up. But I gotta ask you, man, you won a world championship in Call of Duty and in Halo. What was that experience like, and which of the two was sweeter to you?
People ask me that a lot. I mean, like it's tough to say because they both were like like unless you've won one before, you don't really know what that feeling is like. Like it's not just like winning a normal event. Like it's like the one, like the one that everyone talks about for years to come. Like no one even cares that we won Fort Worth last year. Like it's just we lost World, so it was a failure of a year. So like winning that event is like insane. Winning in COD was like a very specific feeling because it was like proving to ourselves and the community that we could actually like push forward and win one. And then winning in Halo was awesome because like I didn't know if I still had in me to win in the world championship. Like on thinking about like the type of player I was like a year before that, I didn't give a fuck about the previous COD champs like last one I played. And like finally getting myself to dig deep and actually show myself I could still win. So that was like super big for me. And I mean they were both like amazing. I wouldn't say one's sweeter than the other. They were both like ridiculous, like the best feeling ever.
Yeah, I think that's especially incredible when you shared with us that I thought it was a foregone conclusion that you would go from Call of Duty to Halo. Like I said, there was a little bit of worrisome in the community that you might just completely retire from gaming entirely, and it sounds like that was on your mind for a little bit. So I can't imagine the thought process going from this might be it to being at the top of the mountain. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
roller coaster in itself. It sounds like.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. I mean, like I said, like at that point in my gaming career, I was like perfectly okay with retiring and just being a content creator and just like chalking it up. But it was also something in me that just really wanted to play still and really wanted to like get another worlds or like win more events. And like Halo reignited it. Wasn't really sure if I wanted to, but definitely did.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad to hear you didn't regret the return to Halo because I think that was a huge boost for everybody when we Formal's coming back. Like you were already such a massive name in gaming and in Call of Duty. I really think it helped raise the tide of all boats when you came back to Halo. So I know me as just a Halo fan, I appreciate that. Closing things out, we got some quick cues for you. You can use one word to answer these questions, or you can expand on it a little bit. But these are a little bit more meant to be rapid fire. So starting things off, your fondest Halo memory.
Winning worlds
That makes sense.
for sure.
But I don't know. Maybe it could have been getting your first overkill on your brother's Xbox account. So got to ask anyways. And I know this recently, just from talking with you, just personally, you've gotten back into Pokemon. Have you always been into Pokemon? And which one's your favorite?
I just recently started getting back into it. It's just something me and my girlfriend like to do. Obviously, when you're a kid, you don't have much money to like get everything you want. Now I kind of do, so I'm going a little bit crazy. But favorite Pokemon is probably Charizard or Pikachu, and obviously those are the most expensive cards, which kind of sucks. But yeah, definitely going a little crazy with Pokemon as of late.
What's your foundational shooter, the shooter that got you into gaming and maybe even the competitive side of it?
Halo 2.
Scump, better COD player, content creator, or friend of yours?
Ooh, I would say friend first, then COD player, then content creator.
Now, I got to ask, you seeing Scump have his career path go from what he's achieved in Call of Duty to the massive success on Twitch with watch parties, do you see yourself in a similar vein and maybe taking a similar path in the next several years? We'll say like 5-10 years from now because we want to see you keep playing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely venture into content creation at some point, and hopefully, I find even like a sliver of success he's found. His success is insane. And content creation, I'm happy for him. So, I mean, hopefully,
What's your favorite weapon throughout Halo?
maybe the Halo 3 sniper.
It's one of the harder ones to use. I feel like it was a bit more rewarding. Like there was not as much bullet magnetism, or like I don't know. It's just harder to hit headshots in that game, so it makes sense
Yeah, it
to
was
me.
very satisfying to get like no scopes and stuff.
Favorite duo or teammate?
Scump.
Favorite rival to compete against?
Slasher.
How about in Halo?
A Bound.
Okay. Oh, wow. Interesting.
I
All
like
right.
playing against Bound.
Cool. What is it about Bound? Is it his movement? He looks like a crackhead on the map. He sticks out.
Nah.
What is it?
We're just like we're just friends outside the game. We always bullshit with each other, so always fun to beat him.
That's really cool to hear. Favorite Halo and favorite COD?
Favorite Halo is probably Halo 3. Favorite COD was probably Black Ops 3.
All right. Well, that about wraps things up. Matt, if you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the community while you're on the podcast, or where we can find you on socials, floor's yours.
I mean, formal and everything. And thank you guys for having me on. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Much love, as always.
All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of Timed the Leader. Make sure to subscribe to both of our channels for more episodes. And check out the playlist linked below if you missed any of the past episodes. Guys, these episodes take a tremendous amount of time and energy to record and produce. So if you enjoyed and you'd like to support this endeavor, please make sure to check out our Patreon, which is linked below. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.
He finds one person, and they have the drop shot. Great awareness from Vogel, not just the rip throw off. Has that patience. He's going to get to make it free. Vogel changes everything. A patient play going over.